Hi, this is Herm Kovac from TMG, Ted Mulry Gang. Remember that band? You're listening to the Australian Rock Show.
Hey folks, it's Dennis Gray and it is show number 93 of the Australian Rock Show. If you're a long-time listener, welcome back. And if this is your first time tuning in, thank you. We really appreciate your time in checking us out and having you on board for the ride. You know, since we were kids, my brother and I have been devotees of the Ted Mulry Gang. TMG have a rich back catalogue of music which I often delve into, material which has stood the test of time. Let me quote from the liner notes in the recently released 1979 live album where my brother summed it up far better than I could. TMG were one of Australia's most popular bands of their era, providing the soundtrack to people's lives. Their contribution to Australia's cultural identity in the 1970s cannot be understated. They released 6 studio albums between 1974 and 1980, which sold in their tens of thousands, and had many charting singles, including Jump in My Car, which climbed to number 1 in 1976 and stayed there for 11 weeks. Yet the legacy of TMG upon Australian rock and roll extends a lot further than Jump in My Car. Sure, they were the fodder for teenage girl fantasies, and yes, their posters adorned the bedroom walls of thousands of Australian teens. Yet there was musical muscle to go along with the image, and nowhere was this more evident than in the live environment. Be in no doubt TMG could kick major arse and had enough firepower to blow most other bands off the stage, and they often did. TMG were one of the hardest working of all touring bands and were incessantly on the road, bringing their hard-edged rock and roll to the masses and to every far-flung corner of the continent. Be they strutting or stepping out across Australia, TMG developed a hard-earned reputation as a fierce live unit, blitzing audiences with their brand of original, catchy hard rock. Who needed Bad Company or Status Quo when you had TMG? Drummer Herm Kovac has been one of the guys we've wanted to get on the show since the very beginning. And I'm happy to say we caught up with Herman a couple of days back and had a detailed chat about a whole bunch of things. And I just know that many of you out there who are Australian rock historians like us will get something out of this interview. We'll hear that chat with Herm after a song. And I know I've played this track previously, but what the hell. I personally think it's one of the best ever songs which guitarist Les Hall has written. And considering the amount of wonderful tunes he's written, that's no small statement. From their Disturbing the Peace album, here at TMG with Heart of Stone. Hey Herm, it's Dennis from the Australian Rock Show. How are you?
Got you this time, mate. How are you, mate?
I'm very well. Look, TMG have been out and about doing a few shows in recent months in support of a new best-of album that was released on vinyl only called TMG Full Circle, released through Sony. Side A contains the Albert's Years and Side B, the Mushroom Years. What prompted a vinyl-only release?
Well, at the merch table, there'd been some, not only do people bring their own vinyls, which I can understand, they're fans that have kept it and want it signed, but we were surprised to find a lot of German bootlegs not bootlegs, they were actually released in Germany because they've got a big thing for all Albert stuff over there, right? Mm. And we'd seen these, records that we were signing and we found out that they were pressed in Germany and I mentioned that to Sony and they just said, oh, look, well, why don't we just do a special edition greatest hits? And I said, great, yeah, it'd be great to do that because they did the 40th anniversary Jump in the Car CD greatest hits. So, they went ahead and did it. And we decided to put, side A, the Albert's Years, and side B, the Mushroom Years.
And for those fans fortunate enough to see the band on these recent shows, they've got to see Tony Mitchell on bass with the band, who I gather stepped in with short notice to fill in for Mark Evans, who now seems to have found a permanent home in Rose Tattoo. Yeah,
Mark's been touring with Rose Tattoo. Don't blame him. He's going all over the world. And, so Tony was our first choice ages ago. We thought of Tony, and then someone said, oh, he doesn't drive. And we thought, oh, okay, there goes that. And then we got Mark, who we've known just as long, well, probably longer than Tony. And then as soon as Mark joined, we found out he couldn't drive either. But Tony, we toured the Around Australia in 80 Days with Sherbet, and we did so many tours and shows with Sherbet. It's like, we've always known him, and he just perfect fit, so it's all good. And Sherbet fans get a treat because basically a lot of TMG fans were Sherbet fans because we used to do so many gigs together.
And You're All Woman, by the way, sounding better than ever in the live set.
Yeah, and Ted wrote that, and we used to play that live before Sherbet ever recorded it. We used to play it live, then Sherbet recorded it, had the hit, and then we'd still be playing it, and people would come up, geez, you do a good version of that Sherbet song. I'm like, oh, geez, well, yeah, our singer bloody wrote it, so we dropped it.
Now, TMG have 3 upcoming shows booked at present. Saturday the 2nd of June at Ettalong Diggers, 23rd of June at Right Eastwood RSL, and Saturday the 1st of September at Revesby Workers, which is the birthday bash for Ted. Those shows will feature Tony Mitchell, correct?
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
And, yeah, the birthday bash is, it's the 3rd birthday bash we've done, 3rd or 4th, I think it's the 3rd, which we're hoping, we can keep that going each year. On the anniversary of, because Ted passed away the day before his birthday, so, this time it actually falls on his birthday. No, it fell on his birthday last time. It falls on the anniversary of his passing this time.
Let's backtrack a little. TMG reunited in mid-2016 for a bunch of shows and also the release of a new 40th anniversary best-of compilation. There's been many gigs in the past 18 months. How have the shows been going?
Great. Really, I mean, look, a lot of them we've been in there the first time. It's a matter of the gigs that of promote, that we're on and all this sort of stuff, do a bit of public, are sold out. They're packed out, right? But there's been a handful of gigs that you do where unless you live 2 miles up the road, you don't know it's on because they just advertise it within the club and that's it. You know what I mean? And so, they're a good crowd, but they're not sold out. They're not packed out, But on the whole, the average has been really good, full houses. So Melbourne and Brisbane especially, Newcastle, they've been great.
So did you have any expectations when the band got back together a couple of years back? And do you think those expectations have been met?
Well, I didn't think anyone would turn up, really. And I was shocked when we had really good, and even the last birthday bash was packed out, So, yeah, I'm shocked, really, that there's still, we just today just got offered, a northern New South Wales run and stuff like that. So, there's still, and I'm forever getting emails, when are you coming to Adelaide? When are you coming to Perth? There's so many areas we haven't been yet,
I think
with this lineup.
The music has just endured and gets better and better with age. And I think
I mean, like,
want to see it.
In the 70s and that, we went through all Dubbo, that, all Western Australia, country areas and all that, packed house, full houses. So all those people, they've grown up with fond memories of the band, and and they've heard we've done this here, because of some of the TV stuff that we've done and that, and the web page. They know we're back on the road, and that's on forever. Oh, when are you coming over here? When are you coming over here?
So, mate, in terms of recent recorded material, last year the band put out a new CD, or rather a reissue of the long out of print TMG live album from 1979, which is terrific, by the way, and it includes 11 extra tracks to make it a 21-track album. What can you tell us about the reissue and how you came about rediscovering it? Well,
David Lang used to work for Warner Music, and he kept, Warner Music have put out Pub Rock, Aussie, this. We've had about half a dozen requests for different songs to go on compilation albums, right? And then I was talking to Warner's, and I just said, the Mushroom stuff, can I archive it? Where are all the multi-track tapes and that? Can I archive it? And if I archive it, you can keep the digital copies, as well. It saves you doing it, and all this. And then they said, well, while you're at it, it was David Lang that said, I'd like to bring out the live album. Do you reckon you could find some extra tracks? And then I remixed our last album, Locked In, because it was done by an American producer that made it so 80s with bloody drum machine bits here and vocoders. It was horrible, it really was. So I got that and I stripped that right back to a basic rock band. It sounds great. So that, and I remastered the TMG album and I remastered the Disturbing the Peace album, found some bonus tracks, and put those like demos that were done at festival with different melodies on Crazy and that. So I put they've all got bonus things, and they're all going to come out, in future. But in the live album, when I was looking through the multi-track tapes, I actually found a Jump in my Car. I think it was from the Horden Pavilion or something. And Jump in my Car has never been released on a live thing ever. We've had requests for it, but we've never found one we've liked. And I found this one, and vocals, those answer girly voices are a bit dodgy, but the basic vibe's there, you know what I mean?
Sure. So you just answered my question. So there are plans to reissue, some of those
There's the Mushroom stuff, and then someone from Albert's, BMG now, when they heard that I was redoing all that Mushroom stuff, they wanted me to redo all the Albert's albums, so... And there is still an album out there that I'm looking for. I've got the mixes, and the mixes sound all right, but I'm still looking for the multi-track tapes because it was an album, a full-on rock album that was never, ever released. Mm. It was done for a new record company, and they went kaput, and they said, look, you can just have the album, so,
That could be a nice little package in the future if you have...
Yeah, well, there was a song on the Greatest Hits or the Reunion album called Rock and Roll, and we play it live. Well, that's off the album, as well as State We're In, She's Got Me By the Balls, and a whole lot of other songs,
That would be nice if Alberts could do, Here We Are, Strutting and Stepping Out as a triple box set. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part.
Yeah, well, I've always thought, it'd be great to have the Alberts and Mushroom and the bonus album and outtakes and all that as a box set, you know what I mean? So, if anything, you can always sell them at gigs.
Correct. And I'm assuming
the gigs have become the modern day record shop.
We're gonna talk about that before this interview's out, but I'm assuming you have quite a bit of unreleased material in the vault that has yet to see the light of day?
No, not really. Just different versions of stuff, you know what I mean? But there's the only unreleased one is like this Fairfax album that was never released. That's the only totally new unreleased stuff, you know what I mean? Because, most of the time we're on the road. And, like with Alberts, we had to come up with 2 albums a year. It's ridiculous.
It is.
And there was one came out in May and another one had come out just before Christmas. But that was the thing. Just about everyone did that. Nah, I mean, after a while it just took too long. And, some just take, years between albums. But, so basically we're always, we tried to make B-sides that weren't on, like It's All Over Now and You Got It. We tried to make B-sides, tracks that weren't available on an album,
And for fans who have yet to see the band in its current form, you have Ted's brother Steve on vocals, who is an absolute powerhouse, one of the best hard rock vocalists in the country, and I think a guy who does justice to the material. Yeah,
he's doing a great job. Really good job. I don't think we would have, we wouldn't have bothered, I don't think. It's in the Mulry DNA, it's there, he's part of the family, it's just fits. If we got another singer that was a well-known singer from another band, like the Angels Have Got Gleason, you tend to you'd look at that person from their other band and wonder if they're going to do material from their other band. You know what I mean? Whereas Steve, because, he's been in other bands and all that sort of stuff, but when you see him with us, it's not like he's connected to Noiseworks or he's connected to, Rose Tattoo. It's Steve Mulry, and the name, people wonder, like, I've been asked, was he Ted's dad? And I said, well, geez, we're not going to have a 90-year-old singer on stage, are we? Oh, right. Is it his son? And I said, no, he hasn't got a son. It's his younger brother.
Well, mate, the TMG shows I've seen so far over the past couple of years have been terrific, with the band sounding amazing. Have the band been penning any new material at rehearsals? Are we likely to see any new TMG material?
Look, maybe you and about 5 other people. It's like I went to see the Searchers at Rudy Hill RSL a couple of years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was packed, and then there was the merch table, right? And, their greatest hits and all that were there, and, people are buying it and all that. And I reckon if they said, we've got a new album of new material and all that, you'd be lucky to sell one, seriously. The reality, it is a diehard fan might get one, but on the whole, it's I see Gary's been wanting, because I've got a studio and everything like that, let's go in and record, we could do an album and all that, but, Sony aren't going to release a new album. They'll release all our other stuff, and so will Albert.
But a track like Old Habits, which is, I guess, one of the latter things you recorded, is a fantastic tune. And if that's an indication of what could be in the offerings, it's exciting.
But the other thing too is, Ted and Les, when they wrote together, wrote great songs, and Les individually wrote great songs on his own. So did Ted. We had this great songwriting thing, but without Ted there, it's just going to be weak in the songs. It's too much for Les to carry it all, and everyone in a band thinks, I want to have a song on it. And the bottom line is they're never as good as the main songwriter.
Sure,
look at Creedence Clearwater when John, everyone said to John Fogerty, we want to write our own song, and he said, righto, you write 4, I'll write 4, and he writes 4. And guess what happened, Rolling Stone gave it a review. John Fogerty's 4 songs were great. That's what people were interested in, It's like if Gary and I wrote a whole album for TMG songs, it's not going to be the same as if Ted or Les wrote them, together. And, you can, and, no one, seriously, you're at the merch table, you've got a great, all these compilations and all this sort of stuff, and you say we've got a new album, new material. It's only going to be a handful that will buy it.
Maybe as a one-track download only or something.
Yeah, something like that might be, in the works
Viable,
or whatever.
Yeah,
in Viable or whatever. But, Sherbet, it was such a huge band. Just before they did that countdown, that shows that went all around Australia, the countdown shows, spectacular.
Yep.
They recorded 2 songs, 2 brand new songs to put on the Greatest Hits album, and they did them in their first concert in Brisbane, and Gudinski said, you're not using this show to push new material. You don't do that anymore. You play your hits. So they didn't play them anymore. Did radio pick them up? No. Can you tell me what those called? No.
I can't, no.
No, exactly. And I heard one track and it sounded great. Darryl singing on it, but it's just that thing of, no one wants to know. Does anyone want to know new Quo stuff, or do they want to hear their old stuff, It's only bands like the Stones and a handful that can go beyond that and keep doing new material, you know what I mean? But even the Stones do stuff.
I guess, though, that it's a moment in time with you guys back together, and it's worth capturing, the creative moment now.
Look, I could be totally wrong. Don't forget, all this is my opinion. I could be totally out the window on that one.
Well, mate, let's go back a little bit, if we may, a few random questions. And I know that you've had a life in rock and roll that began back in the 60s. When you look back at your life in rock and roll, are there certain memories that stand out? And I guess I'm meaning really significant ones.
Oh, geez, probably the excitement of first time I rehearsed with my first band, which I went to rehearse with 2 guys called the Mustangs, and it was the first time I'd actually played properly with people, and those 2 guys came to our Belmont gig 3 months ago. It was amazing.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And then there was Velvet Underground when we went to Brisbane and we played it with the Masters Apprentices. We supported them at Brisbane Town Hall, and Clem Wheatley came off, when we came off stage, Clem Wheatley said, you guys should stick together, you're a great band. And then there was that lineup with Malcolm Young in it for nearly 3 years. There were good bits in that. And then TMG, when we when we first went to number 1 or appeared on Countdown, there's just a whole lot of them, I mean, look, I'm in the middle of writing a book now, and it's just like the amount of stuff that because I've got mountains of scrapbooks that are almost like diaries, because I've written that we did this, did that, blah, blah, going back through that and then writing about everything, it's just like, amazing. I mean, like one point that I just totally forgot about is we're on a cruise to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and we're down in the galley, and because of my name, Herman, this English crew member accused me of bombing London, and it just got ugly, and Ted grabbed me and raced out with me, and I said, what's up? Because from where Ted was standing, he saw the guy getting a knife out. But, I didn't know about that, so, I put that in the book. So there's just so many things, and like, on the first album, there's 2 songs called Circles and Temperature's High, and they came out on the boat while Ted was still drinking. We'd go on to start playing, and we're waiting for him, so Les would start a riff, then I'd play along and that, and then Ted would just finally get on stage and join in, and we'd get this feel going, then he'd yell out A, and then we'd all go to A, and then he'd start making up words, and then the next night we'd expand on that, and by the end of the week we had a song. So a couple of the songs for the first album wound up like that.
Well, it's great to hear that you're working on a book. I enjoy the stories, and I know that somebody like Ron Clayton is a great historian of the band's history. His book, It's a Roadie's Job, which I've got to mention, it was a compelling read. I'm looking forward to reading your book as well.
Okay, well, this one is, like I said, just the 3 chapters with Malcolm, that alone is like, people are going to find out things about Malcolm Young they didn't know, just before the industry sort of gave that tunnel vision and made him headstrong, he's like Huckleberry Finn, like this, and of course we were the smallest. Whenever a promoter ripped us off with accommodation but expecting us all to stay in one caravan, it was always Malcolm and I that slept in the same bed, and the amount of times I've had his dirty toes in my nose, funny, so, there's a lot of stuff. And then, like I said, I'm only just starting with TMG when we were 3-piece before Gary joined, I mean, I'd written 2 chapters for ABC Books, and then they went under, so I had them there, and a coffee table book came out, Rock Country, and they took excerpts of that and put it together as one chapter, so I've got some of the things like when Jump My Car came out already written, but now I've just got to fill up to that and after that, so, it's all good, mate.
Is there a tentative release date, or it's too early to say?
Publishers still is hassling me, and I keep saying, it's like school, mate. It's not, blah blah blah. But I'm hoping to get it done by Christmas.
The benefit of hindsight means you can look back objectively, 40 years on, the music of TMG still endures, and significantly, time has proven that Ted and also Les in particular were very accomplished songwriters. Do you think enough is done to preserve the legacy of TMG, or rather, are you happy with TMG's place in Australian rock history?
Well, what happens is whenever they do a 70s thing on TV and that, you see these one-hit wonders pop up on it, and, it's like the band, the first Australian band to knock Abba's Mamma Mia off number 1, and then because that was so big, you think, oh, well, and then you forget that the next single, Darktown Strutter's Ball, couldn't get past Fernando, and Bohemian Rhapsody and us used to swap spaces to try to get Fernando. People forget that. And then the third single was top 5 in Jamaica. We had all these singles that were hits, yet whenever they have these shows, it'll be someone that's had 1 or 2 hits. So it's like Mark Evans said when I asked him to play, he said, this is great. It's a great legacy band. We're going to remind people just how great Ted's songs were, and Ted was. So, yeah, when he said that, that was the tipping point for me to agree to do it, because up to that I was still humming and hawing.
Well, I think legacy is the word there. I mean, it really is a great legacy.
It is, yep.
Now, mate, you just mentioned Malcolm, so I have got a couple of AC/DC-related questions. Obviously, AC/DC went through guys like Colin Burgess, Peter Clack and Noel Taylor before settling on Phil Rudd. Were you ever in the frame for the drum spot in AC/DC?
I was on the tour. On the morning I was leaving for a tour, I got a call from Malcolm, and he said, mate, we're having trouble. It was the High Voltage album. They were using a session drummer. And he said, look, we're having problems with a few songs. Can you come in and help us, you know? I said, shit, I'm just about to leave, mate. And, you know, and then even after that, for a while, he'd keep coming over to my place. What are you up to? What are you doing? And even when Velvet Underground split, he just said, look, do you want to come with me? I'm going to do a heavy metal band. I'm going to do a heavy band. I want to do a lot of Deep Purple stuff. And because I'd been in a band with Les for a while, I was still very loyal to Les. And I was torn for about a week between my friends. Like Malcolm was my new, you know, great friend of mine, and so was Les. I was torn. And then I thought, hang on, you're just looking at it personally. Look at it musically. It was a no-brainer. I didn't like Deep Purple. I didn't like heavy rock. I was the guy that railed against TMG for a lot of our songs sounding the same. So if I'd have gone with TMG, with Malcolm, and wound up in OCD, I wouldn't have lasted 3 months because I would have railed against sameness, and so I would have either left or been kicked out. So it's a no-brainer. You know, I'm not going through the, what if, because I know full well that, you know, and our friendship may have suffered. You know what I mean? And we've just remained friends right up to when he left us. So, you know, that was worth more than... And, you know, I just loved the Here We Are album, and I just loved melody and harmony. I love pop songs like that TMG did. You know, I can't play an AC/DC song all the way through. I really can't. It's very samey, you know. I've told Malcolm that to his face so many times. It's not funny.
You followed your heart.
Exactly, you know, so... yeah, so no, I never, but I did regret not playing on those tracks, you know, because I felt I let him down, you know. But anyway, you know.
Now, it's, I'm going to rack your brain here, mate. It's mentioned in some publications that Angus Young's outfit, Kentucky, played their first ever gig supporting your former outfit, Velvet Underground, at Bateman's Bay. To me, it's a significant moment in Australian rock history. Do you recall this gig, which most likely would have been...
I recall it, and I wrote about it in my book.
Okay.
I recall it in my book. They got bugger all, and they were really excited. Angus was really excited because he was staying in a motel and all this sort of stuff. And we watched him, but, you know, to be honest, you looked at him, he was a great... And, you know, he'd call me into his bedroom and just start playing all these licks and everything like that, you know, and he was great, real show. You know, he'd be jumping on the wardrobe and dressing table. And I remember seeing Kentucky. They were pretty awful band, really. But to look at Angus, you think he was great, but there wasn't that lightning bolt where you've seen the future, where you've seen this phenomenal guitarist, you know. He was just a good guitarist. So, yeah, you know, I'm not going to, you know, people probably want to hear, oh, yeah, it was a lightning moment. I saw him. There was the future, and it was Angus Young and all that. Well, you know, he was just this long-haired guy with his hair right down to his shoulders. You couldn't see his face, and he was just playing lead and just playing Mountain and stuff, Leslie West stuff and all that. And you wouldn't have picked that he'd go on to what he was, you know.
Good.
And what people don't realise too is Malcolm's a great lead guitarist, a really good lead guitarist. Like, you know, I've got recordings of Velvet Underground with Malcolm playing lead, you know, and he used to play when we did Can't You Hear Me Knocking by the Stones, and it's got that long jam at the end. He was the one that wailed out on the solo on that.
These are wonderful stories, mate, and you've just confirmed. So it was at the Catalina Club. I'm a bit of a rock historian. The Catalina Club in Bateman's Bay. Kentucky.
Yep, I've got a feeling we might have the night before or the night after, we might have done that Ulladulla, which we used to do all the time, that Civic Centre in the middle there. Okay. I have a feeling that to make the trip worthwhile, we might have done that before or after, you know. But I definitely remember Bateman's Bay. I definitely remember that.
Well, Ron Clayton told me there were occasions when Angus would be at some of the Velvet Underground shows when he was quite young, 15 or so. So I guess those experiences...
First gig he went to is, Margaret. He kept hassling Margaret. We were playing at Santa Sabina College in Strathfield, a girls' school, and Margaret kept saying to him, he kept asking, can I go? Can I go? And Margaret, who was the elder sister, said, no, you can't. And he said, it's just down the road, And she said, no, you can't. And then he kept hassling her, and then I arrived with Les to pick Malcolm up. He said, you can only go if Uncle Herman can see you. And he's all excited and getting ready. And I said, hang on, what's in it for Uncle Herman? And then we decided that if he was going to come, he had to sit. I can still see him. And that's where we did Can't You Hear Me Knocking for the first time, was at that gig. And he was sitting on the left-hand side of the stage. So if you look diagonally from the stage, he's along the side wall there. So I could see him for the whole gig. And the whole deal was that when we dropped him off at Burwood, because Malcolm had come back to Monavale to stay in the house with us, when we dropped him off at Burwood, he actually had to make us all Ovaltine. That's the last time I saw him, and he still calls me Uncle Herman, by the way.
Well, I can only imagine that at 15 those experiences were quite important to his music.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, that was the night that I reckon he decided this is what I want to do. When he saw his big brother in that band, he thought, right, I get it, because he was too young to have seen his bigger brother in the Easy Beats, except for on TV. But that was probably the first live show he went to, and he saw his brother and saw, what could be done, and I think that was a turning point for him. And Kentucky came about because he'd always be practicing by himself, and I just said, look, there's this drummer, Trevor James, I've been giving drum lessons to, and it's frustrating for him just to play by himself. As it was, why don't the two of you get together? At least if you're practicing, he can keep time and he can get better. And that's how Kentucky started.
Oh, these are wonderful stories. I'm enjoying them.
Yeah.
Mate, I guess we'll leave AC/DC there because people will just have to wait for the book. I know you've got a ton of stories.
Exactly.
And we're not going to unveil them all tonight. Now, TMG never split up, but you all branched off and pursued other business activities in the 1980s. You moved into production and established Ramrod Studios. But before we dig into that, musically in the late 80s, you joined, from memory, another Sydney outfit called Seven Seas and released a couple of albums with those guys. What are your memories of that period?
No, it was True Stories.
True Stories, okay.
Yeah, I played guitar and sang in that and did my own songs, I was doing all that before Rob Hurst did it. Got off the drum kit and started doing it. Ted was overseas, so I just had these songs and I signed to a publisher and I thought I just wanted to demo them in a band format, which I did and put them out as a CD, and we were doing about 3 gigs a week, and it was that went for a couple of years, so it was fun.
So what prompted your move into production?
I've always loved studios. When Mum took me to see Hard Day's Night or something when I was a kid and I saw that glass window, that was it, and I've got a little tape recorder, fiddle with it, and I've been recording all day today, and I just, just still excited over the, I'm listen to that acoustic guitar sound, check this mic out, blah, 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 and yeah. I still love it. Just love recording studios.
I did read somewhere some time back that you have the old mixing desk from Albert's.
I still have it.
Still have it.
Yeah, that's why those guitars sounded good. And I've still got the 24-track tape machine that Albert's used as well. So as well as Pro Tools and new stuff, I've got old stuff like old valve mics and like the Albert's desk, yeah.
Okay, and for the past 25 to 30 years, you've had a career as a successful producer and engineer. We could devote an entire show, Herm, solely on the artists you have produced, largely with a focus on country music. But, I mean, let's look at some of the stats. You produced 8 consecutive Star Maker winners, beginning with Kate Ballantyne in 1998, to Golden Guitar winner Samantha McClearmont from the McClearmonts in 2005. You've produced a countless number of top 10 hits, with a string of these hitting number 1, as well as a swag of Golden Guitar winning records. I've got to ask you, have you had any offers over the years to produce any international artists or outside of Australia?
No, I mean, I've recorded a great band from southern, I don't know if that was Texas, the Amazing Rhythm Aces. Mm-hmm. they had a big record deal in the 70s or 80s. They came to Australia and heard something I'd recorded and came into my studio, and I recorded them. And when I recorded the Divinyls, I recorded the guitarist from Blondie was in there. So, and I love Blondie, but I'm recording this guitarist who's playing on it, and I thought, holy shit, there's half a dozen Australian guitarists just shit all over this guy.
Mm-hmm. Which Divinyls work did you do? Do you remember?
We did. It was two things. We did pre-production for an album they were going to do in America, and we did a final. It was a song for a Hollywood movie that Holland Dozier and Holland had written for this movie. I think it was called The Perfect Ending. That was a song, and we recorded the song for that movie.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, I remember I saw Harmony James, one of your artists, supporting Emmylou Harris and Rodney Crowell a couple of years back, and she.
Well, that was impressive. A highlight for me, meeting Emmylou Harris and I'd met Rodney Crowell before, but Emmylou, that was great. And the fact that I'm sitting there at a dinner table eating with Emmylou Harris and Rodney Crowell when Harmony did that tour, that was a highlight of. When I set out to manage her as well as producing her albums, I set out that I wanted to get her a major record deal, a major publishing deal, and I wanted to get her on stage with Emmylou Harris, and I achieved all those. So then we both retired from it. She's retired from singing and all that, which is a bloody shame. She's so talented,
Okay, now some of the other artists I know who recorded at Ramrod that you either engineered or produced included James Griffin, who had an album come out on Chase Records from memory. There was also the Olive Branch CD, which came out on Phantom. Happy Hate Me Not's a band I used to see a bit and used to like.
Shit, bloody hell, I've forgotten about that.
Getting him. Who else? Gone to Wonderland. You also engineered an album by a punk rock outfit from the Northern Beaches, World War 24, which I only just learnt, and also the Candy Harlots' first 7-inch. Are there any projects you've worked on, either as producer or engineer, where you thought, this band is destined for big things and should have had more success?
Well, there was one band, I just said, they came in and they'd heard Split Ends, I Got You, and they were raving about it. And I said, you guys are going to be bigger than them within a year. Oh, you reckon, Herm? You sure? Really? Oh, wouldn't that be great? It's Midnight Oil. And so I recorded this guy had come in, and I did an album for him. He's really excited. He'd just seen himself on a Westpac commercial and all this sort of stuff. And if someone had told me that in 20 years' time that guy'd win an Oscar, I wouldn't have believed it. It was Russell Crowe.
Was that as Rustler Rock? He recorded as Rustler Rock, didn't he, early on?
No. It was more of a Billy Bragg type album, acoustic type stuff. Yeah.
Were you surprised with the success that David Hasselhoff had with Jump in My Car in 2006? I think that was top 10 in the UK.
No, well, if I'd have heard the song first, I would have probably, sneered at it, but I saw the clip first, and when you see Hoff in that clip, you just can't help but like it, so
Yeah.
I liked it. But the best version of all is Chris Bedding's. When we heard Chris Bedding's version, we thought, that's the way we should have done it. But then again, it wouldn't have been a hit. It was real slow and stonesy.
Yeah, I've mentioned that. It's the very faithful rendition, isn't it, Chris Bedding's?
Yeah.
It's interesting to look back at how the music industry has changed. As an example, if you take the influence of a show like Countdown, where a slot on Countdown was good for a few thousand record sales the next couple of days, but more importantly, it got you exposure into regional Australia so you could go out and play the town halls, etc. Times have changed, and certainly the nature of the music industry has changed. So whilst artists may have more control of their careers now and their music, it does seem harder for a musician to sustain a living nowadays as a professional musician. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's hardly any gigs for them. They're all bedroom artists, because there's nowhere to play. And, the classic example, Savage Garden, right? They did those singles. They were great, right? And because they were so huge, they were booked for the entertainment centre. They didn't know how to perform. They'd never played. They didn't know how to perform. And people went away saying, I should have just stayed at home and listened to the CD. In 1927, they were formed in a studio, and then they went out on the road, and it was just all lumpy and that, because these bands didn't have venues to play at, or all that. And, well, this, especially now, I mean, this was when that happened with them. I mean, they just formed in a studio and all that sort of stuff and went round it the back way, which still blew up in their face. But now, you know, there's nowhere for, like, especially that whole pub rock scene, you know what I mean? Where can, except for the Bridge Hotel in bloody Sydney and one over at Cronulla or something, where can you play, you know? Where can these bands play? I mean, I told someone that when we started, we'd be playing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. We'd have Monday night off and probably Tuesday, so it'd be from Wednesday to Sunday. And on a Saturday, I remember we'd go over to Bankstown, do a show, go up to Hornsby, do a show, and then come in the city and do another show at midnight. We'd do 3 gigs in a night on a weekend. Bands lucky to get 1 gig a month these days. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, there's nowhere for them to hone their chops, is there?
Exactly.
Where do you see the future of Australian rock and roll then? Obviously, its best days are behind us.
I don't know. Look, it's like I draw comparisons with the studio. Like you had tape recorders, right? Then it all went digital. We had valve amp microphones that were great and valve preamps. Someone invented FET electronics that was super quiet. All these valve stuff just went out the window and they're buying this. 10, 15 years later, all this valve stuff's come back because they realise that the noise on it is the character, right? So, you know, these mics are worth a fortune now. Vinyl, you know, I was around when someone offered me a pressing plant festival. It was going to the tip. I didn't have anywhere to put it. Who's going to want vinyl? You know, there's a vinyl pressing plant working 24 hours a day, and Sony have just bought a pressing plant because vinyl's come back. And mark my words, everyone's doing stuff in bedrooms on laptops, but, you know, it's going to come back where people are going to want that experience of everyone playing together in a room, control room with a tape recorder, and tape machines will you know, come out USB ready and blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff. And I think it'll happen with venues where people just want to see bands again. I mean, you know, there are some cropping up here and there, and you know what I mean? So, you know, like every time you say, that's it, you know, there's a generation. It's like, I think with vinyl, why that helped is you'd watch a movie, a guy would bring a girl home, he'd take a vinyl out of the sleeve, put it on the turntable, and drop the needle on it. And that visual is just, you know, kids would think, geez, I want that. Imagine the guy coming back with a girl and just flicking his iPhone on and music starts. It doesn't do the same thing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's the experience.
Mate, aside from TMG, where does 2018 find Herm Kovac? Are you still producing bands?
Yeah, I still produce. Like I said, I've been doing that today and yesterday, and I've got to do it on Friday. And one day a week, I actually teach audio at Ultimo TAFE, just so that a whole new generation knows how to mic up an acoustic guitar or a fiddle and just doesn't use samples. So, you know, putting a bit back in, I'm enjoying that. Couldn't do it full time, but I do that once a week. So it's just basically... producing, recording, and, you know, it worked out. I love managing Harmony James, and, you know, I've got the infrastructure set up for that if I wanted to do it again, but just as I retired from managing her, TMG stuff fell in my lap, so that's taken care of that, you know what I mean? So
are there any other shows booked aside from the 3 dates we mentioned earlier?
Yeah, there's a in August, Club Menai, on the 4th of August. Okay. And West New Lambton on the 18th of August. So there's 2 in August. I just got asked if we wanted to go up to Ballina and Laurelton, northern New South Wales, for the end of August, but I'm going to have to say no to those because Gary's unavailable. And then there's some at the end of the year, which will probably be another Brisbane trip and another thing. I made it clear to the agent, we just want to do a handful of gigs a month and keep it selective so, you know, we're not overkill, you know.
What about getting on one of those nostalgia type tours? Not interested in that? You want to keep it as...
We were asked for that gold thing, but who wants to drive to Wagga to do one show? There was a blues festival we were supposed to be on in the Hunter Valley, but that got cancelled. And there's another festival up north somewhere that we're booked for, but we can't mention that till the deposit comes through. So, that's a festival with a whole lot of other acts. And I think in the new year we might be looking at doing a double header with someone for a couple of months. So there's a whole lot of things like that I'd like to do,
Folks, I encourage everyone to get along and see TMG Live. They've got a bunch of cool merchandise for sale, including T-shirts, the new TMG Live CD, the 40th year anniversary best of CD, and the guys will autograph all this stuff for you as well. So please say hi to Ronnie Roadie when you purchase your items. You can follow TMG's activities on Facebook. The band's website lists all the latest news and, importantly, gig dates, which we'll go through again at the end of this episode. Herman, many thanks for chatting with us. It's been a real honour to get you on the show today.
Thank you, mate.
Before you go, every guest gets to choose a song by an Australian band, something which is significant to them. It can be one of yours. What would you like to choose and why?
Okay. My Happiness, Powderfinger. Have you got that?
Yeah.
Because Powderfinger, in my opinion, and Ted's, when I played him that album, were the last of the great rock bands as far as I was concerned. I mean, rock bands that had great songs.
Thanks, Herm. Look forward to catching up with you very shortly.
Good on you, mate. Take care.